At what age did you decide you wanted to be a hockey player and why?
Yeah, so I started off as soon as I could in primary school, and back in the day when I went to school, you could pretty much choose netball or hockey if you're a girl. That's the only sports that were available where I went to school, which was St. Joseph's in Takapuna. And my older sisters, I have two older sisters, and they were both hockey players. And I looked up to them as a older sibling. So I wanted to follow in their footsteps, and that's why I chose hockey. I actually started a year before St. Joseph's allowed you to play hockey because we were just a small school. You could start. I went to play for Forest Hill School, which it's not the school I went to, but they were allowed to start a year earlier. So that was my first team, and Forest Hill 6-a-side. I think it was called the Pinkettes. And I think my second year team was with Forest Hill, and they were called the Hot Shots. That was real kid stuff. But we had a ball of a time, and so that's when I kicked off, and basically because I was following in my older sister's footsteps.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Was playing hockey your first choice of career? Was it like the job you always wanted to do? Or?
As a actual career?
Yeah. Be part of the Black Sticks.
No, look, I didn't really want to. I never really considered it as a career option, and to this day, it's really still not. Although I'm full time playing hockey, I also have a full time job in the real world, as we call it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in school, as an actual career move, I actually wanted to be a police officer. And hockey was always just a sport, but it wasn't until halfway through college that a really, really famous player who was a New Zealand hockey player at the time, Tina Bell.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, came to our school and just talked to our hockey team and said, look, if you want to be really good and have the opportunity to do international travel and become a New Zealand hockey player, you just basically had to train and anything was possible. So it was from that visit that things inspired me to go and achieve greater things and think, well, maybe I could do this, and I really would like to be better than what I was. So
just a reminder, we do have a therapist downstairs. She is only here until 4:30. So if you've got any aches, pains, or niggles, and you want to get that sorted, you want to make sure that you want to see the physiotherapist in the southern end of the pavilion at the bottom.
Yeah, so it wasn't until probably midway through college that I actually started aiming to be a little bit better than just average. Hello, Harley.
Oh, sweet. Greatest influence professionally on your hockey career and why? Would it be like Tina Bell again?
Do you know what? No, I don't think it would be. She gave me, put an idea in my head, but about that time, I think I was 13 when I started playing for the Hibiscus Dairy Flat Premier Women's team. So really, really young, and our whole team was really, really young. And we had a coach named Bronwyn Reeves, who is still coaching around Mopava to this day. And she turned out to be probably my most influential coach and mentor figure. Basically, Bronwyn was a striker to be feared by most. She was playing and coaching. She taught me a heck of a lot and challenged me every single training and made sure that every single club training I went to, I was getting absolutely pummeled. So with her encouragement and advice through a long number of years, she's coaching me, I think, for a good decade. She was probably the most influential person that inspired me to continue on and kept exposing me to higher and higher grade of hockey. So yeah, she'd be certainly my most influential coach to this day.
Oh, thank you. Cool. Have your friends and family been in terms of realising your dreams?
Yeah, good question. Family's just the most important thing. And for me, well, I've got a pretty sporty family anyway, and I'm the youngest of six kids, and so I was always looking up to my older brothers and sisters and wanting to be like them. I think that's also a really important message. If there are people out there that are an older brother or an older sister, it's really important. You're baby brothers, baby sisters are looking up to you to lead the way. So it's really good to remember, I think, as a life lesson, how influential your siblings can be. Probably for me, the most influential was my father, who was, he was pretty competitive, always supportive, but he would always, as I would leave for a hockey game, he was a real hard taskmaster. I'd drive out the driveway, and the last word he'd always say to me was nil. He'd say, make sure it comes, no goals, clean sheet. So I'd be walking out the door, and I'd say, see you, Dad, and next thing I hear from upstairs, nil, righto. And off we go. So he was always, expecting really high expectations for me. If I didn't play well, he wouldn't pat me on the back and say, bad luck. He'd be like, well, we can train on this, or you'll do better next time, or he'd just say nothing. But it was obvious he would be at the games. He'd make sure that I had the gear when I needed it, and he was certainly the person who I wanted to please the most. My dad. Always supportive, but not to the point where he was just patting me on the back if I hadn't done that well. Every pat on the back had to be earned. So yeah, it was really influential.
Oh, sweet. Thank you. Think you require in order to succeed in today's competitive world of hockey?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into making a complete hockey player, but really. To succeed, and it's probably not specific to hockey, it'd be for any sport, there has to be an absolute determination to do very well. So there must be some sort of competitive streak that compels you to work hard to win. There needs to be a real commitment or persistence to what you're doing, and it has to be a huge attention to detail, because as soon as you step out of national level sports and into an international field, it's the small details, whether it be attention to detail in your training ethic, attention to detail in following the coach's game plan, whatever that might be. So those little, what my coach Mark Hager would say, it's the 1%ers that make the difference at international. So you have to have the attention to detail and the perseverance, the commitment, effort to succeed. If you don't have those things, then you're probably not going to cut it at international level.
Oh, awesome, thank you. What one piece of advice would you give to a young person who's embarking upon a new career path?
Career path as a sporting career or any career?
Any, or sport, or?
I guess, it's important if you're setting your way, for your future, you're paving your way, and you have some idea of what it is you want to do. The first thing, you need to be passionate about it. Once you've got something you really feel strongly about and you're enthusiastic about, because that's important, to be keen and enthusiastic about whatever it is you're doing, then probably the best thing would be to identify early on what it is you want to achieve. What is your goal, where are you going? Once you have your goal in place, you need to think about what steps you need to take to actually achieve that goal, and then just shorten your sights right down to what is the thing that I need to do now to get where I'm going. So you've got this overall picture of where your career is going to take you, what your path is going to be, but you need to, you never look at the whole picture and say, well, that's a big mountain to climb. You always just look at what do I need to do next? What's the next step to take me in the right path? When you break it right down like that, you're going to come down to day-to-day decisions about your actions that are going to either lead you on your path or let you go astray. And that's pretty much, that applies to anything in life, whatever your life path is going to be.
Yeah, definitely. Can you describe the most defining moment of your hockey career?
Sure, I think, for me at this stage, I'd have to be sitting and thinking about the London Olympics as being probably a huge highlight for me and the pinnacle to date. But then again, I suppose, even looking back at London, we ended up 4th and dipped out on a medal. I probably still have some regrets and some really hard, painful feelings about that. So while it was a highlight to date, it's also one of the lowlights along the way.
Awesome, thank you. Which training routine involve or require, and how often do you train, and when you do, how long for?
Yeah, so we've got different types of training that we do. Mainly I've got the three types of training. So there's the hockey specific training, which is usually done with a team, but also I do some individual sessions, which if it's in the New Zealand team, it's with specific coaches, and I'll grab the strikers to be doing, specific shooting drills, which is really skill-based training. It could be a team session where it's, more of it's going to be a skill-based training, but it's much more interrelational with your players around you, working on structures, working on your communication with your players. So that's the kind of hockey-specific side of things. But then, a huge part of what I do is just general conditioning, and also what we call prehab, which is basically means that we're doing a lot of work in the gym, so that's 3 times a week in the gym, on weights and movement patterns. We do a lot of work during that time to make sure that the body is really balanced and healthy and in general conditions, so that we're not overusing any one particular mechanism too much, because if you just played hockey, you'd just end up with quite an unbalanced body toward hockey, but you may not necessarily be the picture of health that you need to be. So there's the balance rehab work, prehab work in there, which also takes care of any niggling injuries that I've got on the run. And then we've got another 3 days a week where I'll be doing some sort of aerobic conditioning. Okay, so that's, for me, I don't run at all because I've got some lingering knee injuries that prevent that. But I spend plenty of time on the bike, and that could be long bike rides, it could be cycle interval training, could be circuits in the gym, around the cardio gear, but whatever, there'll be, 3 weights, 3 aerobics, and hockey is usually about 6 out of 7 days also. So yeah, pretty much do the math, you've got a rest day, and every other day you have 2 sessions on a day.
Would this be the same for when you're at the Olympics, or would it die down or be more intense? Or?
Yeah, at a tournament itself, you're pretty much just game on, game off hockey, and then on your rest days you'll be doing a training, but it won't be too intense. So it may be for the goalies, but generally you've got your intense days at game day. Your next day they'll work on structure and such on the field. At most tournaments, there'll also be opportunity during the rest days for me to get on a bike and make sure my knee is ticking over. And there might be some light gym work, but we're not going to do anything heavy. We're not going to do any big training loads that could leave us fatigued for a game. So we usually taper about a week out from a tournament. So we'll peak up to a really high intensity in our loading. Taper off so that we're fresh for the tournament, and then we'll just maintain so that we don't get stale, because the tournament can run anything up to 2 weeks. So if you've got 2 weeks of training time with no conditioning whatsoever, you do tend to get a little bit stale. So yeah, so while we're lighter and more competition focused during the tournament, and it was the same at London, there was always some other exercises to do, some recovery, that sort of thing.
Oh, awesome, thank you. What did you have to sacrifice in order for your hockey career to survive?
Yeah, had to give up a lot, It's sort of what I mentioned before about having to make your choices along your career path. Now, for me, that meant at college, I was a bit of a sporty spice. I had all sorts of sports on the go. I was keen on the basketball, the volleyball, I did a bit of rowing even. What else? Cricket, and all of those sports. In the end, I said, no, I don't have time for those. I'm not serious about those. Hockey's my sport of choice, and had to pretty much give them away quite early on in favour of doing hockey. Having said that, I don't give up everything. I still into equestrian. I've always had horses throughout my life as a relaxation, non-competitive sort of outlet. I've still got other interests on the side, kayak and bike and what have you, which are recreational and non-competitive. But pretty much you just have to narrow your effort into that sport early on. Similarly, I haven't really pursued a career outside of hockey, in that I require so much time away from work that, I had a managerial position but was unable to continue basically because he just needed to be there for the whole year. And if we have a busy year, an Olympic year or a World Cup year, I'll be up to half the year I can't work because we're away touring or we're in training camps. So really it's pretty impractical to expect your employer to be that flexible. I'm very, very lucky to have a flexible employer that allows me to train. So yeah, there's probably been a choice to say, look, this is what I'm doing at this time in my life, but that's not to say that it's going to be that way forever. The rest of life can wait until I'm done with hockey. Probably on the social front as well, it's quite a big sacrifice. Obviously, as an athlete, we can't be out drinking, we can't spend late nights out, can't go to town with your friends, and once your friends understand that, look, you're a hockey player first and foremost, and that's where the priorities lie. They've been, really good about that sort of thing. So if you say, no, I don't want to go out to dinner, or no, I'm not coming to that party, they'll understand why, and because they're, good friends and really cool people, they respect that, and they're not going to pressure you into doing anything that could compromise your hockey either. So, I've been fortunate to get good people around me, and, everyone around me understands my choice is always going to be hockey first, and if there's a little bit of room for fun here and there on a rest week, then that's great. I'll go out and have a good time also.
My team in ensuring the success of your hockey career.
My team are everything. There's no, what is it? There's no I in team.
Oh yeah.
There's the old saying. Yeah. So, I mean, even to me, I'd say we define my career by a successful Olympic campaign personally. But the reality is, if my defenders hadn't stepped up to play their best ever tournaments that I've seen them play, then I would have been, left with nothing, and they're helping me out, all the time. It's never an individual effort. You can play really well, but if you haven't got really good people around you, then you're not going to win games, and then you're not tracking the right direction at all. So it's one of the things I love about team sports is that while there's a need to push yourself individually and be the best you can personally be, there's also a requirement to fit within the game plan, listen to the coach, work with other players. And the really great thing about teams and why they're so important is that you can take all the best attributes of the individuals within the team, and you can add them up, and you might get 10. Okay, but if you take all individual attributes and then add teamwork, you've got 12. So if you know what I mean, it's like the sum of the parts. I was saying, I think it is the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, which means if you have teamwork, you can be better as a unit than you could possibly be as individuals at your best. So that's the whole point of teamwork, is that you can really get some magic when it all goes well. And without your teammates, you're nothing. So it's always going to be a team effort.
Oh, thank you. Have you overcome in order to succeed?
Yeah, that's really a pretty pertinent question, for me in particular, because I've had a few challenges along the way.
Like injuries or
yeah, I mean,
like that?
the biggest two things that will be the hardest two things you'll go as an athlete you'll face, and any athlete in your career, is injury and non-selection. Okay, and injuries, trust me, I've had plenty, and some that have required me to take extended times away from hockey. I missed a complete year because of double knee surgery at one stage. I actually had 3 knee surgeries now in total.
Oh, wow.
I've had, I have no idea how many, breaks and aches and pains, and I'm sure a few of them will be left with me after hockey, but hopefully nothing too dramatic.
Yeah.
So injuries, the worst thing, particularly when it rules you out of tours. You desperately want to go. I remember I had a tour coming up to USA, and I went and played National League, and I tore my medial tendon in my knee in the second to last game of league, and I still desperately wanted to go, but it wasn't realistic, and it ruled me out of the tour. And so to this day I've travelled the world and never been to the States, so I was gutted, but but yeah, that's just part of it. And I guess the really tough challenges has been overcoming, non-selection, and the timing sometimes has been pretty key. For me, I debuted early 2008, and that was the Beijing Olympics year. So when I came into the team, I was a bit of a late starter for a team that were already on their Olympic campaign, and I gave it my absolute heart and soul, and I came really, really close to making that team, but I was the last selection left out, so the last player cut, and absolutely tore me up because I really had a belief that I was good enough to go. The hardest thing about that particular non-selection was that I had my father at the time was he had had a long battle with cancer, and we knew he didn't have long left. And I knew that when I missed that selection, he'd been hanging on, thinking he might see his daughter at an Olympics. I missed that selection. I knew it would hurt him a lot, and it felt like he had given up, and he died very soon after that. So that was, I was a mess, and I had to go and play National League 1 week after he had died. And to make matters worse, I'd had a nasty back injury where I crushed one of my vertebrae in a training in about the same week. So I played the 2008 National League with a horrible back injury that was really, really painful. A week after my dad's funeral, having just been dropped from the Olympic team. Yes, and then, but it's funny how life turns it around. I just went and did my best, focused on the hockey. We won the National League, and I got player of the tournament.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, life will turn it around when you think you've hit rock bottom. Again, 2 years later, I've made the big choice and said, look, I'm going to take the courageous choice. I'm not done here. I haven't achieved what I wanted to. I'm going to keep playing. 2 years later, we hit Commonwealth Games Delhi year. Meantime, there'd been a retirement from the team, and I was shoo-in to go as one of the 2 goalkeepers. And then for the first time ever, New Zealand Hockey decided to only take 1 keeper to the tournament. They didn't tell me until I was the last player cut again, and this time I wasn't expecting it. And I was really struggled to deal with that, and I was just in tears. I couldn't even talk to the coach. I just had to walk away and drive home. So there I was again, another major tournament, and been building up all year, and last minute I wasn't going to watch it from home. That's the hardest thing. And you have to question, you're sort of sitting there going, well, why am I doing it? But at the end of the day, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And so sometimes things won't go your way, and you have to just choose and say, well, no, I'm not done yet, but I'm not going to give up, and keep going. And that's what I chose to do, and it paid off for me in 2012. Obviously I've got to be an Olympian, and that's with me for life now, so it doesn't matter what happened before it. Was persistence is what paid off. Yeah, so that's those are some of the hardest things I've had to come over. Injury wise, sickness wise, there's been some shockers. Geez, even 2012, the Olympic year, we went to Argentina, and I think it was February of that year, and I stayed on with a couple of the girls, and we just visited Chile, Santiago in Chile on the way home for a few days R&R. And we went hiking in the hills, and I managed to pick up meningitis. Oh, no. So probably out of like the water, or just hanging out in the pretty grubby third world area. And so when I got home, I was quite sick, and I ended up spending a whole week at North Shore Hospital in a little isolation room with meningitis, and I was so unwell. But at that time, I was only months away from trying to prove my Olympic selection. And, really struggling to overcome that battle. I lost all my muscle tone in a week. It's just what meningitis does. It just eats away at you. So that was a huge battle to try and come back from that. And, so that would be probably one of the bigger challenges I've had as well. The worst sort of injuries, if you like. Yeah, I've had my fair share to overcome for sure.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Thanks for sharing. The greatest challenge you have faced, and how did you overcome this?
Yeah, so I think the really biggest challenge has been the non-selections for Beijing, and then again Delhi. So non-selection is the hardest thing for me. And basically it came down to having the courage to make the choice to carry on. It was, you know, it wasn't easy at the time, deciding, you know, to keep going and commit to another couple of years and keep challenging myself to achieve my goals. And particularly when, you know, you've been non-selected, you feel very much like you're unwanted, because you are. Like, you know, you're not good enough, so you start to get a lot of self-doubt mentally. It's really bad for your confidence. But yeah, it really just comes down to focusing on the process. And for me, that could be my day-to-day training, and remembering as well, you know, keeping things in perspective that you know, you have to enjoy the journey. Even if things get really hard along the way, there's always really good aspects to being a professional sports person, in my case, hockey player. And that could be, you know, the opportunities for international travel. It could be spending time with amazing people who are driven for the same goals, you know, incredible individuals I get to play with. And yeah, just the general amazing experience of being able to play top level hockey. So, you know, keeping perspective is also really important when things aren't going well.
Okay, thank you. Words. What is the key to success?
Yeah, so it's probably, you know, I guess it kind of goes back to those attributes of any top sports person that you'd want. One has to be the persistence and determination to succeed, and the other has to be being able to understand that the little things and the day-to-day choices make the difference to winning and losing. Absolute diligence towards your training plan, your nutrition, looking after your body, listening to the coaches, accepting their information, and being willing to go out of your comfort zone to become a better player, I think is the absolute keys. You know, without any one of those things, you know, probably not going to do that well. Personal challenge, I'd say, would have to be, you know, the greatest thing you can do.
Thank you.